Hi, everybody. You are very welcome to our 17th and our last QPS Talk Time of the autumn-winter season, indeed of 2023. My name is Roisin Egginton. I'm a program manager in the Quality and Patient Safety Improvement Team, which is part of the National Quality and Patient Safety Directorate. And today, for our final QPS Talk Time of the autumn season, we will be discussing Together to Improve Health and Care, Joining the Q Community. You can, of course, follow us and continue the conversation on Twitter, or X as it's now known. I'm still not used to calling it that. We do record these sessions so you can watch back on YouTube at National QPS, and you can also follow us on LinkedIn and join in the conversation there. What this session is about, again, this is about the Q community. I'm a very proud member of the Q community myself, and today we're going to focus on learning about the membership organisation. What is the Q community, how it's growing in Ireland and the UK, and how it's improving health and social care. You'll be joining in conversations with current Q members on how the Q community can benefit you and why they would encourage you to join. You'll learn more about Q's recent Insight project on understanding, measuring, and improving the engagement of staff in major change. And finally, we'll be discussing how you can apply to become a Q community member. And again, it's a free professional membership organisation for people who are improving health and social care. Now comes our experiment. And hopefully with the magic of technology, we will have a word cloud that emerges. Networks, sharing, straight off the bat. People, friendship, great, yeah, people is coming out good and strong there. Collaboration, a sense of community. We're going to be covering all of these today when it comes to the Q community. Like-minded people, yeah, links, connections and people, links. Yeah, you feel free to add more words if you like. The Slido is open, it's not just one response, so feel free to add in a few more there. Learning, yeah, great networks, communities of practice for learning, sharing, connections. Yeah, and I think this is really what we hope you'll get a better flavor for what the Q community is about. It's about those connections and about bringing people together, like-minded people around a similar topic and a similar goal to improve health and care. Communication, shared learning, technology. Yeah, as we're learning now, technology sometimes works in our favor. Passion, common passion. Yeah, that's coming out quite a bit too. Energy, knowing, socialization. I think a lot of these really do have common threads through them. So if we have time, we might come back to this at the end. But in the meantime, and in the essence of time, so these are our speakers today. First up is also my co-host and my very esteemed colleague, Dr. Maureen Flynn, who's the Director of Nursing. She is our QPS Connect lead with the National Quality and Patient Safety Directorate, and she's also with the Office of Nursing and Midwifery Services Director. We have Stacey Lally, who's joining us from the UK. She's the Deputy Director of Q. We have Miriam McCarthy, who is the Health Sciences Academy Manager at the University of Limerick and University of Limerick Hospitals Group. And finally, Clifford Mitchell is a Senior Improvement Advisor with HSCQI in Northern Ireland. I will hand you over, without any further ado, to Dr. Maureen Flynn.
Thank you, Roisin. And those of you who have been watching will see I'm moving into the hot seat. Roisin and I have been sharing and co-hosting the session today. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's Q all about. So we, Roisin and I, are members of Q, are a community of thousands of people across the UK and Ireland, collaborating to improve the safety and health and quality of health and care. So we share our knowledge and support each other to tackle challenges. Back to the word cloud at the start. Together, we make faster progress to change health and care for the better. And that's why we all go to work every day. The community thrives on its diverse range of skills, knowledge and perspectives. We inspire and support each other to deliver improvements in health and care. So it's not just for hospitals, it's across the spectrum of policy, research, clinical practice, community, mental health, paediatrics, all aspects of healthcare. In 2015, Q was co-designed by 231 people leading and working in improvement at the time in the UK. So good while ago now, 2015. So NQPST and the HSE became a partner country with the Health Foundation to make Q membership possible to anybody in Ireland working in healthcare from 2020. So we're 3 years a growing community now in Ireland. And I have the opportunity to sit on Q's advisory board, bringing the voice of Q community members in Ireland to all the strategic thinking about how Q as a community develops. But really importantly, what does Q bring for individual members? So I know many of you on the call are Q members, and many of you are curious and interested, so that's why you're here with us today. So what Q gives you is, and Roisin mentioned that word, free. Now, not everything's quite free, but the HSE gives a small amount of money to the Health Foundation to make it available for anybody in Ireland as an individual member to join free. So that's a gift of the HSE and the Health Foundation. So Applying gives you lifetime membership. There's no joining or ongoing fees. You can participate in webinars, guides, toolkits, networking opportunities and events, member directory. You'll see on the slide on the right, just a very small, screenshot of some members from the directory in Ireland. A range of special interest groups. There's 81 of those that you can join and participate in. The chance to learn from other organisations through in-person Q visits. So there's examples of some of the in-person and online visits that are on offer, and an opportunity to develop your project ideas with some funding. And we'll hear more about that in our conversation today. So in Good QI, we're measuring as we go our membership, and we're very proud of this line graph. So today we've 152 Q members in Ireland, from our very first member joining on the 29th of February 2020. So we have 270 Q members in Northern Ireland, and Clifford is going to share a little bit about his experiences of being a member there. So on an all-Ireland basis, we often come together as Q members to share our experiences. I've mentioned Q Exchange, so 3 Q members in Ireland have led Q Exchange funded projects, all receiving up to 40,000 sterling to progress with their improvement ideas. Q members in Ireland have participated in Q programmes, for example, the Network Weaving Series or Community of Practice Leadership Development Series. There's many more programmes that Q members have joined in. Our members of special interest groups, and we have a special interest group specially for Ireland on the Q platform called Patient Safety Community. We've Q members in Ireland who have published their research in BMJ Open Quality, and the advantage of being a Q member is you don't have to pay the open access fee, a very nice gift. And we're also participating in the Country Partner Programme. So Q is about connecting, growing and contributing. So we bring Q community members learning from network weaving together, and we have a tea time catch-up every second month, the third Wednesday of every second month, and it's for 40 minutes. It's informal, it's connecting members of the community, and we prepare a summary output from that discussion. So you'll see the green in the middle is from our very first tea time catch-up, which was held on the 15th of December 2021, and you'll see on the right our tea time catch-up summary infographic from September this year. It's interactive, and we collate all of the information from Q that we feel members in Ireland would be interested in and share news in that way. And the most important thing, we always welcome buddies to come to the tea time catch-up to learn more about what Q means for members in Ireland. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Stacey Lally. So Stacey is going to share one of the very exciting things that have emerged from the Q community recently. Over to you, Stacey.
Great, Maureen. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you about this project, as well as talk to you about how to join Q and some of the benefits as well. I'm Stacey. I'm the Deputy Director of Q. It was really nice, Maureen was saying that 2015 is a long time ago, and I remember my first day at work in Q was in 2015, turning up at a design event to design this network that didn't exist, with no kind of blueprint. So I remember those days very, very fondly, and we have developed significantly now with over 5,000 members now in 2023. So I'm going to talk about a particular project. I wanted to choose something that I thought would be a helpful case example that has, I guess, the potential for scale, something that would touch everybody working in improvement, and something that felt kind of tangible for the types of roles that you might be in. So we've published a how-to guide that's designed to support anyone with responsibility for understanding, measuring, and improving major change across health and care. So it's been developed by Q, working with Discovery, and I'm happy to send the link to Discovery afterwards. It's an online platform for collaboration, innovation, and improvement. So this guide has been created by over 300 people who are working across the health and care sector, and a wide range of people as well who saw the importance of sharing their experiences to support us to collectively improve our approaches to major change. And when I use the phrase major change, I'm talking about system and service changes that are broad in scope and scale, with collaborative improvement across teams, systems, and silos that are there to address, I guess, the multiple severe challenges in the health and care system, which will be no kind of surprise to you. I wasn't part of the team that developed this, so I can't take any credit for it. But when I was first reading some of the earlier drafts and looking at it, I personally think that this guide, particularly the 10 principles that I'll talk to you about, can be used for any type of change in a way. But I'll be interested in your thoughts as I get through some of the content to kind of bring that to life for you. So the resources are there to help you understand 10 principles that underpin how to engage staff well in change. And it provides some flexible tools that you can use to measure engagement in major change projects. So why staff engagement? You will all know this more than I will in the roles that you're in. So we know that broad changes are needed within the health and care system, from record waits to chronic staff shortages, growing inequalities, low patient satisfaction. Engaging staff well can improve not only staff experience, but the success of change projects in organisations themselves. So these resources aim to support anyone who is leading change projects with a kind of actionable and flexible approach, that can be used in any setting. There's a range of tools. They're listed there on the left-hand side. The 10 principles that I'll talk about in a minute. A staff survey tool, a planning and reflection tool. Within this work, focusing on learning as much as what you're delivering is really important, isn't it? How you get to move on from data analysis into action and what that process might be. And we also offer an insight report that gives, I guess, greater detail on the project, its methodology and findings for those who want to get into the evidence. We all look for different things in these types of models, don't we? So we talked about I talked about the 10 principles. Without being too biased, I think they're great. I think they do describe some of the areas that we should really be focusing on, sometimes focus on and sometimes forget to focus on when we're delivering major change. And these are all key considerations that we think are really important. And these 10 principles go on to underpin the approach for measurement that's also set out in the guide. So they're all important, and to some extent, they're really interconnected. However, I think in doing this work, anyone, we would need to consider exactly what they mean for the context of the organisation that you're in or the space that you're in, the type of change you might be implementing, whether it's major change or a different type of change within your organisation. And I guess it's also important for me to say that these principles represent an ambitious standard for engaging staff. And our existing contexts and organisational constraints will be really important to pay attention to. We'll all be in different places with different challenges around change. And this is something that is, an ambitious set of principles. There isn't necessarily a one size that fits all. So just going to read these out, I think, just to bring them to life a little bit for you. And then I've got a few questions that I wanted to ask you in the chat box, just to see how it's landing and what your reflections might be. So I think you can see the slide quite clearly, but clear rationale. How often do change projects start with really understanding what you're reaching for and what's really important? Shared ownership. Is there shared ownership? Is there support from a leadership perspective? How do we understand our capacity and capabilities? Do we need to bring some of that in-house? How do we use people across the organisation? Honesty and transparency can feel really challenging when change is happening to you, or at least it feels like it's happening to you. You don't quite have a space in those conversations. I think psychological safety is talked about more than ever, isn't it, across health and care organisations. Anyone who hasn't yet, drawn on or Googled Amy Edmondson, looking at her work around psych safety, it's really, really interesting and just provokes lots of thought. Appreciative and compassionate, inclusive and non-hierarchical, structured. I guess this is where some of the improvement methodology might come in, like what is our structured approach to change? Clear and consistent communications, always so easy to forget. And gosh, we all have stories about how challenging that can be when you mean to communicate something in one way, but it lands in a completely different way. Sending an email doesn't always cut it, does it? And then continuous learning, looping that learning around your change project. And when I think about these 10 principles, I can think personally of when I have used some of those, and then I can think of examples where I haven't at all, when they have just been kind of missed off the list. So I guess this has been just a short trot through, like, an example of a toolkit that we've developed in partnership that I said, over 300 people have contributed to. And I guess our job doesn't end when we produce something like this. We want to share it widely. We want to be helpful. So if anyone had any questions about it or wanted to have a chat, then I'm sure we can make time to do that if anyone was interested in kind of using it. And also the guide is very structured, as you would hope. And I think we can send the link around afterwards for anybody who is like grappling in the middle of a change project, or know that you've got something on the horizon, actually starting off with like almost aligning some of your work. So, it's kind of using a bit of a checklist, isn't it, with the 10 principles? And there's much more that sits within the guide as well. I think we're very proud of this, and we've had a lot of interest, both from our advisory board, senior leaders across the 5 nations, and even somebody in the fire service who got hold of it in Scotland and is really interested in doing it in their work as well. So I think it spans beyond health and care in many ways. So I'm going to finish there. If anyone has any questions or wants to pop them in the chat box or contact me afterwards, I'm very happy to talk about it more. And I hope it was helpful to kind of share something live, sharing with you the type of work that we're doing. There's a QR code there for the resources, and Sinead Phelan there is our marketing and comms manager for this project, and knows a hell of a lot about it as well, so she'll be happy to help. Thanks very much.
Great. Thanks so much, Stacey. I really love those 10 principles. Those of us working in the health service in Ireland is going through, yet another transformation at the moment. I'd love to print that out and literally keep it next to my desk. Yeah. Because I think it's something we should all be reflecting on, not just in major change, but really in our day-to-day work. Those principles are fantastic and they really roll together quite well. So as Stacey said, if you have any questions, comments, observations on what she just presented, please feel free to put it in the chat box and we can come back around to it. Or indeed, join the Q community and we can continue the conversation over there. So I am now delighted to be joined by Miriam McCarthy, who is the Health Sciences Academy Manager in the University of Hospital Limerick and the University of Limerick Hospitals Group, and also Clifford Mitchell, who is a Senior Improvement Advisor in HSCQI in Northern Ireland. And they are both Q community members. We're delighted to have you both here today. Again, representing, as Maureen said, the island of Ireland in the Q community. And we just wanted to have a bit of a chat with them about their experiences and how they might, how they've benefited really from being part of the Q community, and why they would encourage you to apply if you haven't done so already. So I suppose, Clifford, coming to you first, it'd be great if you could tell us a little bit about how being a member of Q has benefited you in your work.
Well, I was just thinking back. So I joined Q 6 years ago, roughly, 2017, 2018. And I suppose for me, it was really an opportunity to connect with others and learn. So we know Q have lots of, events, masterclasses, site visits, and they give you the opportunity to connect. So I'm thinking of way back to 2018. I had the opportunity through Q to fly over to Royal Bournemouth. So I was working on waiting lists and specifically endoscopy. So I had a chance to go over and learn from them on what they were doing. And so the workshop itself was really interesting. Loads of discussions on how to use decision algorithms to speed up processing of complicated referrals. So for me, it's if I'm going to spend the time to go somewhere, I want to bring something back. And I can safely say any of my visits through Q, I've always brought the learning back to base, back to the front line. More recently, so just last year, Stacey had mentioned the Insight project. So I am currently leading on a regional program focused on timely access to safe care. And the Insight project last year was about improving access to using data to address inequality. So I just fixated on this. And I suppose, again, it was around connecting and networking, sharing ideas. So that Insight project and being part of it really enabled me to learn from others. So every participant was able to pose an issue or a challenge in relation to waiting lists, and then others bringing different perspectives, working through ideas, working through problems. So it really helped me focus on what I was doing with my own program, and also to share the learning that I had as well. So there's just a few examples of that connection, but for me it was comfort as well as that. There's something about comfort in knowing that the problems and challenges that you face are not unique, that others are facing them as well, and then we can support each other.
Yeah, Clifford, it's that real sense of community, isn't it? That we're all in
Absolutely.
this together. We're all trying to improve and learn from each other. And when you can learn from people, even, outside of your own immediate area of work, your immediate jurisdiction, it just builds it so much quicker. Yeah. That's fantastic examples, Clifford. And coming over to you, Miriam, you also had some great experiences being a member of Q. Slightly different to Clifford now. I think, you were one of our awardees of the Q Exchange program, which we're very proud of you all together, Miriam. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm thinking back as Clifford was speaking. So I joined Q in 2020, and I suppose it's an area I'm very keen on, the whole quality improvement and continuing change and what we can do. But in the Health Sciences Academy, and you can probably see from our backdrop here, we have what we call a Junior Health Sciences Academy, and that's really focused on how can we support our younger people in the region to be health leaders, to have advocates for messages of health promotion, but also instill among them, this sense of an early career in healthcare and what this could be like. And it's really on the values of fairness and equal opportunity. So anybody can work in healthcare. There's something for everybody. So that's one of the strong angles that we have here in the Midwest. But we were very fortunate. So I joined Q in 2020 and we spotted the funding call come out for Q Exchange. And we have a really collaborative Junior Health Science Academy group. And I think this is something that was really quite innovative as well. So our membership is our colleagues from the University of Limerick, from Midwest Community Healthcare, and also from the UL Hospitals Group, but also our education partners, so Limerick and Clare Education and Training Board, for example. So with this really, I suppose, collaborative group, lots of different perspectives, we came up with 3 ideas that we needed some funding to enable. So whilst we're all very good at ideas, we knew it needed some seed funding to get started. And we were successful in our funding call, which is phenomenal. And we secured £29,000. So when that converts to euros as well, it was nice too. That enabled us to implement 3 really, really substantial projects, all 3 of which are still rolling. So one of them, just, and I won't go into huge detail, it's all on our website, healthsciencesacademy.ie, but one is for primary school students and it's called the Care Aware Crew. And we create a suite of videos and educational resources for teachers in primary schools, 3rd and 4th class students, about 9 and 10, around first aid. So things like how to make a 999 call, managing cuts and wounds, fractures and sprains, like those kind of immediate emergency pieces that they needed to do, had to give their air code, and we had really nice illustrations and graphic design for interactive pieces. So we're rolling to phase 3, and we've reached over 1,000 students with that. Our second one then was around a really innovative piece for transition year students around making STEMI videos. So if a person's having a heart attack, what actually happens and what healthcare professionals do they meet on the journey? So they've got to see ambulance crew, they got to go and see a stent being inserted. So really brought the clinical space to the students, because they can't really come into clinical spaces anymore. And the whole idea of that was to look at it through the eyes of a patient. So it was through the perspective of a patient, what it was like having a heart attack, having a stent inserted, meeting nurses, having your physio at the other end. So they were two of the main projects. And then our third one is a project that we did with youth mental health and about teaching students, TYs again, transition years, so about 16-year-olds, to be scientists around the psychology of youth mental health. And that was co-funded by Science Foundation Ireland, with led out by our university colleagues in the University of Limerick. But again, we had huge bang for our buck, I would say, having the seed funding to enable us to do these 3 amazing projects that have had phenomenal impact and are still rolling. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And for anyone who's interested in those projects, Miriam has very kindly offered to put her email address in the chat box. So if you want to find out more about them, you can contact Miriam directly. I know myself as a mum, I'd be interested in looking at those myself and sharing them widely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic project. And it really shows the sustainability is built in there, Miriam. You know, that Q Exchange funding is the launching pad, is the catalyst for really building the improvement and seeing it flourish. And I think, Miriam, as well, your involvement in the Q Exchange program went a step further. So you indeed got involved in Q Exchange itself, isn't that right?
I did. So I feel very fortunate. I think part of being for securing and I suppose winning that award was amazing. So as for me as the project lead, but also as my team members, we got to participate in action learning sets, was really amazing experience. So working with other people who've also successful grant holders, and how we worked through the stumbling blocks that we inevitably came across doing our project. So that was really amazing space to be. And then as personally, I moved on then to be a judge for some of the Q Exchange projects, which was, for me, I absolutely loved being on the other side to understand here what makes a really good project and how can you take that learning and you know, share it and learn what makes a good project and what didn't make the grade. And that was a really lovely thing to be able to do. And I also felt I was giving back to Q, because we were so lucky and we got a huge amount out from Q. It was lovely to be on the other side. Yeah, really positive experiences. So yeah.
That's fantastic, Miriam. And again, that word community just keeps coming to mind for me. It's the give and take. It's being part and feeling part of that network, benefiting from it personally, professionally, and as part of a wider team.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, just one sentence, Clifford, going back to you. You have a new colleague. They're on the fence about joining Q. What would be your elevator pitch, one sentence? Why should they join Q?
If you want to link with other like-minded people that can support and share your passion, this is the place for you.
Oh, that's great. Stacey, you better write that down. That's really good, Clifford. Thanks so much. And Miriam, back to you. What's your one sentence elevator pitch? Why should somebody join Q?
It's an opportunity to see what could be possible and to see other areas and how they can be transferred into your local. So I suppose shine a light on some of those blind spots we might have and not realize that we can do more within our spaces that we might not be aware of.
Fantastic. We're going to write those down and we'll share them on Twitter, where we will continue the conversation as well. Miriam and Clifford, thank you so much. They're going to stay on the line in case we have any questions for them at the end. We can come back to them. But in the meantime, Stacey, I'm going to hand back over to you again, where Stacey's going to tell us a little bit about more on how do I actually join Q? How can I apply to become a member? Thanks, Stacey.
Thanks, Roisin. What was great from Miriam, from what you were talking about there, is the collaboration around across boundaries in developing your Q Exchange application. And there's a real, Q Exchange is a large funding program, and there's a real development side to it. So through the action learning. So for, I guess, in some grant giving organisations, you get the money out the door and then you ask for a project report at the end. And what we've been trying to do is think really differently, actually, about how we can help people to develop their projects, how we can support people in their learning. So we're investing in people as well, in their development, as well as providing funding for really important projects. So it's a great example, and really good to hear. At the start, in the word cloud, I was writing down the things that were really standing out for me. Sharing, collaborating, connecting and learning. And these are the pillars of our theory of change. I'm not going to go into our theory of change today because I think I'm going to talk about some other things, but I'll put a link in the chat box for those of you who are interested in kind of the journey we're on and why, you know, how we want to make change happen. So I'm talking to you a bit about why join Q. I don't want to repeat everything that Maureen said. She said it so well. She said that the membership is free. It is. I mean, it does cost money, but we are funded by our country partners, including Ireland, NHS England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And there isn't a time commitment, but you can participate in ways that fit around your life and I guess your priorities at work. And sometimes that can feel challenging when it's about discretionary effort, which is the same with any kind of community or network. We provide lots of different opportunities through networking events, topic focus groups, collaborative funding programs like Q Exchange, all with the purpose of helping members to develop and deliver their day-to-day work. And, you know, my dream is that really what we offer through Q feels like it's part of everyone's day-to-day job, a bit like improvement being part of everyone's day-to-day job, not just like little thing that happens in this part of an organisation in an office somewhere. That's usually the case, isn't it, in many organisations. So we work in lots of different ways through insight, providing free resources, convening groups, giving funding, and really focusing on what's important for the health and care system. We have themes around reducing waits, for example, integration, working across health and social care. So we're trying to pay attention to what's really important for people. And I guess a big part of it is also about really boosting people's resilience. We've heard from people who've attended some of our events, and we do a few more face-to-face events now. We obviously had a hiatus across 2020, 2021, but boosting people's capacity and resilience, where you come together and you share ideas and you steal with pride, kind of speaking to what you were saying, Miriam, focusing on what's needed, on what's needed most. I won't go into further details on why you can join Q. I'm in danger here of repeating some of the stuff that Maureen said. I'm going to talk about applying because I think that's the thing that's often the question that's in mind for individuals. And having an application form can be a barrier to membership. It's important to be open about that and say that out loud. And I'm going to try and dispel a few myths for you. So in terms of applying, so a bit like with Q Exchange, we often have members who are assessing applications. We have assessors for our membership applications for Q. They are made up only of existing members of the community. It's a really important principle that we have. And we're really keen to expand our assessors and to have more representation across the UK and Ireland. So if you're already a member and you're interested in that, perhaps you can follow up with Roisin or Maureen and we can have some conversations about that. I know we're looking to expand our pool. One of the main reasons that assessors will decline an application is that people don't go into enough detail when they're answering our two main questions. So there are two questions that we ask people to talk about. So we really want to know about your improvement experience, and we want to know why you want to join Q, which speaks to Roisin's point about the kind of the give and take, what you want to bring to the community and what you're interested in learning about. And we do that so we understand people's motivations, and we do look at that detail, and it might give us some ideas about what else we can be doing in Q. And it really sounds like such a simple thing. And I would encourage anyone who wants to apply to spend a bit of time thinking about that. And I acknowledge that, time can be a barrier to applying. We're looking to introduce some example applications so people can kind of see application forms brought to life a bit. And in the absence of those, I would suggest that anyone here who's interested in applying might reach out to a colleague who's a member and see if they're happy to share their application a bit. And to bring this to life a little, if you're someone who is leading work around public and patient involvement and diversity, you might be working across an organisation or a region, for example. Q is definitely a space that you might find helpful. If you're a researcher and you're evaluating improvement work within your organisation, we have a special interest group around research and evaluation. There is a host of people who are doing really active work together to share their learning. You might be a frontline clinician. You might be leading work around getting pressure ulcers to zero or hand hygiene, for example. Q is definitely for you. We have plenty of people who are working in those kinds of spaces who are doing improvement on the front line, and that was why Q was built. You could be working to improve joy at work. You could be running programs around lean or measurement for improvement, clinical audit and QI. As Maureen said at the start, there's such a diverse groups of people who are joining, and they're all tasked with improving health and care and have specific kind of focus areas and areas of interest. And we do quite a lot of work to try and understand what people's areas of interest are and kind of bring them to life through our website. So when we talk about wanting to understand your experience, those are the types of examples you might bring in because you have a project that you're working on or something that you've done in the past that you want to bring into your experience. And I guess if you don't talk about your experience and give some kind of tangible examples, it's very hard for assessors to know what you've been doing and kind of make a call on whether you should be part of the Q community or perhaps whether you're not quite ready yet in terms of your improvement expertise. We have a really high success rate, and I think some of that is conversations like this, being really clear about who Q is for and who it isn't for, and what the opportunities are for people. And I can completely understand that actually applying for something can just sometimes feel really overwhelming. And I guess me talking about it in this way, in a really open way, is to try and dispel some of those myths. And this is the fabulous Maureen Flynn's application form that you're looking at here. Now, you won't be able to see the words because it's very small. And I know Maureen is very generous in sharing her application. What you can see here is that it is very short. So in that first question there, she's talking about her experience. I think, you know, we're very clear about the word count. You can't actually go beyond the word count, which is something like 370 words, and it's something like 150 for what you want to get. So it is short and sweet, and it does require a little bit of thought. Like one sentence probably won't cut it in terms of answering those questions. And if anyone has any questions that they're holding at the moment about the application form, please feel free to pop them in the chat box. I guess there's a real opportunity here for you, and I think you've got plenty of colleagues at the HSC and Roshan and Maureen who can, as Q members and other members in Ireland, who'd be able to advise and share their application form. Or if you wanted a conversation with anyone in our team, I'm sure we'll be able to arrange that for you. I guess the opportunities are great with this community, and you know, I would say that I'm biased. I helped to create it, but I think what we've seen over the recent years is a kind of shift in participation and engagement around our funding programs, wanting to connect across boundaries. We had a collaboration event in Scotland the other week, which is one of our first face-to-face events for some time, which is a really exciting space to be in. So there's, you know, it really does play to your availability, whether you want to go somewhere face-to-face, online, special interest groups. And because there is so much, it can be hard to navigate sometimes. So when people join Q, we have an onboarding introduction. People receive an onboarding pack to help introduce them to the community, make some suggestions of some of the first things that you might want to try out and do. Lots of things available via our website, and we'll be having a new website in the next year, which is also very exciting. So yeah, that's all I'll say on the application form. If there are more questions, I'm really happy to answer them, and we can provide support where that's needed.
That's great. Thank you, Stacey. And again, if you have questions on what Stacey shared there on joining Q, you can pop them in the chat box, or indeed you can contact us on Twitter. You have our Twitter handles there. You can send us an email on qps.improvement@hsc.ie. If you want to even start your application and run it past us before you submit it, we're more than happy to look at it with you. Again, as Stacey said, there's a really high success rate, but we want to make sure that you're successful, and we'd like to guide you through that process. So please do get in touch with us. We just have a moment now. We're going to take a look at the chat box. Again, this is our moment. If you have any questions for Stacey or Clifford or Miriam, or indeed ourselves, please pop it in the chat box. Did have somebody say, and maybe this is for you, Stacey, is there any special section in Q for, where was it, for funding opportunities, a special section for funding opportunities? Now, we mentioned the Q Exchange program, but there are other funding opportunities, aren't there, Stacey?
Yes, there are. There is a funding program, it doesn't quite roll off the tongue, supporting Q Connections, yeah. And it's been developed with groups and micro networks and communities in mind. I'll pop the link in the chat shortly. So if you are developing your own network or community around a particular subject area, you want to invest some funding in how you're working together, or even just coming together, it's kind of a much smaller pot of money. So it's about 40K for Q Exchange, but you can draw down like between 5 and 20 grand to help you progress your work. The reason we do it is because a lot of things happen locally and in place, and sometimes the barrier is just small bits of funding in order to kind of progress things. We only started it last year, so it's a kind of new space for us, but we're looking to up the funding hopefully next year. So we've got some great examples. I'm happy to share some of the examples actually, Roshan, with you afterwards if you want to bring those to life a bit for people.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, they're fantastic opportunities, Stacey. And Clifford mentioned as well that you were over at the Q event in Scotland. Clifford, how was that? How was that experience for you?
It was great. And the thing is, because I've been with Q so long, you get to know people. So we'd already engaged with some of our colleagues in Scotland anyway. So and the guys from Q as well. So it was great. And again, it was focused on the topic that I'm working on at the minute, which is access to safe care and waiting lists. So yeah, it's just about keeping your eyes open to the opportunities out there, getting onto the website and looking what opportunities are there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking, watch this space, at a potential Q event for Ireland members next year. So we'll have more. Like I said, watch this space on that. Miriam has also very kindly shared some information in the chat box. That's on the Health Sciences, where is it there? Oh yeah, you shared the Health Science Academy website. Thanks a million, Miriam, for anybody that wants more information. If you'd like to learn more, and she's also shared her email address. There is a question there. Is there any special section of Q for QI is applied to medical facility building and architects? Now, I haven't come across that myself, but Stacey, would you be familiar with that? We could create one.
I was just answering that in the chat, actually, Jane. There isn't specifically to my knowledge. It doesn't mean that we couldn't create something. But of course, we need to see if there are other people working in that space as well. I'm sure there are. So, if you're either a member of Q or you're looking to join, that's something that we could certainly look into supporting.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties of Q. It is co-designed and co-developed by the members for the members. So it really does have that sense of a membership organization. You can see the special interest groups are set up. People can share their events on the shared event pages. So there is quite a sense of community. Now, we are running a bit tight on time. For any questions that people do have, put them in the chat box and we can come back to them again, or we can contact you separately. But I will hand you over to my colleague, Dr. Maureen Flynn, to close our session.
Back to the hot seat. Thank you. On all our talk timers and listeners who've connected today, a huge thank you to Miriam, to Clifford, to Stacey, and to Roshan, who's here with me co-hosting, and Shima, who are a central part of the team in broadcasting today. I just thought we'd go back and look at the cloud we started with. So what were your words? How we created this cloud together, of how the community can help us to connect. 60 of us who are connected today co-created about what networks mean to us. And you've heard the story now of how Q Community operates. So looking back at those words, you can really see how being a member of that professional organization helps with the connections, with the collaborations, with the energy, with socialization, with teamwork, with growing, with linking, with support, with friendship, with a very new spelling, with being a safe space. So we'll leave that and we'll share that cloud for you to take away and think about as you're filling in your application form if you're not already a member of Q. But we thought we'd finish with just something a little bit fun, because we're past the 1st of December and now it's our job to say Happy Christmas to everybody. We're in the December month and this is the final QPS talk time of this season. So we're curious to know what is your favorite Christmas movie? We've collected some of the talk time team's favorite movies on the screen just to get you thinking. So from Charles Dickens at the centre, being a little bit maybe morbid, to Love Actually, to Home Alone, to Miracle on 34th Street, and many more. We're really curious to know what's your favorite movie. So again, back to the technology, QR code brings you back into the platform Slido, and your password is 123. So no new ones just yet. So let's see if anybody can add new Christmas movies as your favorite. Oh, The Holiday is a lovely one. It's a Wonderful Life. Thank you in the chat box. Fantastic. Love Actually. I kind of like that one myself. It's a one of Frozen. Okay, fantastic. Gremlins. Super. We'll keep those coming. And we'll share the slide with the slide set afterwards. Just reminding you, when we say we'll share the slide set afterwards, the session is recorded and will be made available early next week on our YouTube channel, so follow us on YouTube. We've noticed the conversation going on Twitter throughout the session, so keep that going, and our hashtag is there. And again, LinkedIn, we're increasingly using LinkedIn as a way of connecting the Q community together. So we're just on the closeout to remind you our next session, we're getting going again in January. So our first QPS Talk Time of 2024 will be on the 23rd of January. So a date for your diary, 1 to 2 as usual. So that's a Tuesday. And we'll run every second Tuesday then in term time. And we have a surprise for you. We're not going to disclose the topic just yet, but it is a lovely surprise. So thank you everybody for joining us today. If you want to join our mailing list to hear about the talk times, the QR code will get you to our popping your name just in a quick survey, adds you to the mailing list for NQPSD. And either if you're not happy to do it that way, Chris is delighted to take an email from you at chris.kavanagh@hsc.ie. Please share that with others in your own networks who you know might be interested in joining QPS Talk Time and listening back and hearing about the Q community. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.